A while back I went on vacation to California. I took 2 to 3 Ubers per day and usually made friendly small talk with the drivers. California weather is great. I can't believe the prices here, and so on. One driver picked me up, and by chance I'd asked him to take me to the In-N-Out a couple blocks from my hotel instead of the hotel itself. I was traveling alone. He asked me what I was doing in California. I told him I was on vacation. He asked who I came with. This made me instantly feel on edge, like I should say, my boyfriend. It felt like he was trying to gauge if I was traveling alone. I said family. He asked me where I was staying. I pretended I didn't hear him. He asked again, and I said, a hotel. He asked if it was near where he was dropping me. I said, kinda. He asked how long I would be in town. Oh, vacation length, not too long. I had no problems telling my drivers I was from out of town, but I hated the questions he was asking. They felt off. He wanted too much detail for small talk. He started texting while driving. I was looking over his shoulder. The text was not in English. I couldn't tell what language it was, but I could see my pickup location typed out. After he dropped me off, I watched his car. He pulled around to the back of the parking lot and sat there. Didn't leave the car. I stayed at the In-N-Out for almost an hour. I considered calling another Uber and asked some random women if they had a car and could drive me. Eventually, I walked a couple of blocks to my hotel. I pretended to talk on the phone the entire time. Maybe I was overreacting. The reason I walked back was because I convinced myself I was being judgmental, and maybe he was just being friendly. But I had plenty of friendly drivers that trip with no interest in sticking around an hour after dropping me off or texting about my location. I used to work overnight and get off of work around 7 a.m. One Sunday morning, fresh from work and exhausted, I missed the connecting bus home and called an Uber to pick me up from the bus stop. By this point, it was already around 8. It was a warm summer day. The sun was bright in the sky, normal amount of foot traffic in a generally safe neighborhood. The app tells me someone will be picking me up. Location shows them 2 blocks away. 5 minutes go by, no movement on their end. 10 minutes, no movement. I know sometimes drivers do this to collect a cancellation fee, but I was still feeling a little hopeful. 2 more minutes go by and a car pulls up. I thought maybe the app was just lagging on her location. There's a man driving, tells me he's my Uber, asks for the address of where I'm going. I tell him it's in the app. He shows me the screen of his phone. It's on the Rider app with no rides requested. Reaffirms he's my Uber driver and asks me the address, pushing up on the passenger side door for me. I'm so tired my brain is broken. I put one leg in the car, but something feels off. I recheck my phone. I'm supposed to have a female driver. It still shows her as 2 blocks away. I get out. I tell him that he's not my ride. Oh, you called a Lyft, he says, and drives off quickly. I shudder to think of what would have happened if I had gotten into that ride. Contact Uber customer support. They said they were sorry my ride never came, but didn't care about the rest of the incident, let alone the other questions it raised. Like, how did he know I called an Uber when I was standing at a clearly marked bus stop, scrolling through Facebook on my phone? Used Lyft exclusively for months after that, and still check the driver profile before I get within 3 feet of the ride. This happened a couple of months ago. I was at a friend's house one night and didn't realize how late it was, around 2 a.m. I love sleeping in my own bed, so I decided to call an Uber home instead of staying over. My friend lives in a more rural area of town, so it took a while to get an Uber, and it was around a 40-minute drive back to my house. Upon getting into the Uber, the first comment he made was telling me how pretty I was. Immediately, red flags started going off in my head. I'm already a very anxious person and have always been afraid of taking Ubers alone, especially at night. so I was already on edge before the comment was made. I just replied, "Thank you," and he started to drive me home. My friend was a boy, and I assume the Uber saw him standing at the doorway before we left, because around 5 minutes into the drive he asked, "Was that your boyfriend?" At this point, my gut feeling tells me something is wrong. I reply yes, and say nothing further. He then proceeded to go on about how lucky my boyfriend was, and again, how pretty I was. At this point, I didn't answer. Around 10 minutes into the drive, the Uber driver tells me that he knows a quicker way to get to my house, and we're going to take a detour. I immediately start to panic inside because as an anxious Uber rider, I consistently watch the Uber app on the driver's phone and need to be following the map. Also, this detour seemed to be going deeper down the rural roads versus into the city. I then called my dad, but because it was past 3 a.m. at this point, he didn't answer the phone. I then decide to call 911. The operator answers me right away, and I act like I'm talking to my dad on the phone. She immediately sensed that I was unable to tell her the exact situation, but I acted like I was telling my dad that I was in an Uber and would be home soon. She then started to ask me questions about the color of the car, by having me answer yes or no, the make of the car, my location, etc. She asked if I was in danger, and I said, "I don't know." After telling her my location, she then told me to tell the Uber driver to get on the highway, because the detour he had taken consisted of more rural roads. Thankfully, we were only around 5 minutes from the highway, and then another 10 minutes to the police station. She told me to tell the Uber driver to drop me off at a house in a neighborhood close to the police station. She gave me an exact address, and advised that an officer would be waiting there for me to take me home. After politely trying to beg the Uber to change the address, he finally did, and continued to go in that direction. I stayed on the phone with the operator until I got to the destination. Sure enough, an officer was waiting a couple of houses down. I got out of the Uber and walked straight towards the car. I'm not sure if I was overreacting about the situation, due to my anxiety, especially by calling 911, but the alarms were going off so loud in my head that I genuinely thought I needed to in that situation. I now only take Uber alone in the daytime, and always share my ride with my parents or friends. If you're craving more spine-chilling tales, join us for more haunting mysteries and horror stories. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on the notifications.